Let's see, where were we? Spring? Aha. HDT was a transcendentalist, not a fundamentalist. He dropped truth like bombs, went to the woods because it was a balm. The woods were his church. He might have even hugged a white birch. He said, just gotta be me, gotta be free. I say, step into the zone. I don't mean your phone. Maybe snap a quick pic of some dank frond or just a stick. You can thank the dude from Walden Pond with the crickets in his beard. Henry was straight weird. Living in a shack, he was a Mac with words, in case you haven't heard. He wrote poetry, essays, philosophy, studied botany, grew beans, sang autonomy, a whole chapter on economy. Homie was an ecologist, a straight-A philosopher, not a wannabe, not a never was. He was a rebel with a cause. He had hair on his jaws. Oh wait, I already mentioned that. Did I mention his soul was fat with a Ph.D.? My homie spoke tree. He loved happy clouds. Sorry, Bob Ross, if I'm getting too loud. Thoreau had a problem with stupid laws. All right, let me pause. The concept of civil disobedience called out a system of government that was inexpedient, corrupt, a bloated swamp full of pomp and circumstance, a Saint Vetus dance. Maybe we should try our best to advance. Wisdom, not money, should be our design. Don't waste his time with a poll tax, a system to oppress the blacks. We need more liberty, not more artillery. Tap your creativity and commune with infinity. I just gotta make tracks. Back to the woods, back to what's good. Listen to the sound of a loon laughing at these fools, because they all look the same. You know that's lame. Gotta be true to who you are. Hitch your wagon to a star. Shred that guitar, or make it gently weep. The point is, don't be a sheep. Be a hollow bamboo, don't matter what they say as long as it's you. People are inherently good. He wanted that to be understood. But there's too many distractions. We can't get no satisfaction. But my moves aren't like Jagger. I've got my own swagger. Emerson said, envy is ignorance, imitation is suicide. You know what? You should OD on pride. Sound your barbaric yawp. Grow celery by the stalk. Or just go for a walk. Choice is yours. Whatever it is, do it outside. Nature's the thing. We're now in spring. Breathe the fresh air that brings. Go hug a bear, because life's not fair. Not saying you shouldn't care, but don't despair. Nature wears the colors of the spirit. So when it rains, don't pretend you don't hear it. Embrace the low. Wear it like a cool new tattoo. Don't avoid the snow. Plow right through until you're blue. Don't be a grasshopper. Be a funky guru. The bottom line is that life's not tragic. Even death holds a kind of magic. And when we're at our worst, it's all part of the rehearsal for a brighter tomorrow. Choose laughter, not sorrow. Okay, so yeah, where were we? Spring. I figured I'd read a little... Oh, hi, Rabby. Now you want to hang out. Okay. You can chill. I figured I'd read a little bit of the chapter on spring to you guys, just because we can't do this face-to-face. Maybe wax philosophical here and there. I might not get through the whole thing, but I'll do my best here to, if I don't finish, put out another video where I do. This chapter is a bit of a challenge, because when I think about this book, this is one of those chapters that sticks out to me as being kind of boring. You know, you got Henry walking around, looking at bubbles in ice, measuring the temperature of things. So this is a very real challenge for me to do the online learning and to start with this chapter, because it is a little bit of a struggle. But I thought it would be very fitting because, well, it's springtime. The opening of large tracks by the ice cutters commonly caused a pond to break up earlier. I mean, think about that, ice cutters. I don't think we have that today. I forget which Disney movie it is that starts with ice cutters. I think it's Frozen. People would go down, They would cut literally large hunks of ice out of bodies of water. That's what they'd use for ice. And it was this process that would cause ponds to thaw prematurely in the spring. For the water, agitated by the wind, even in cold weather, wears away the surrounding ice. But such was not the effect on Walden that year, for she had soon got a thick new garment to take the place of the old. This pond never breaks up so soon as the others in this neighborhood. And again, talking about the pond as if it's a woman. The ice is a garment. A lot of the language Henry uses to describe the pond, is poetic, right? We've got some personification happening. I don't know why my cat wants to hang out with me. She never does. You want to be on camera? Is that what it is? Okay. Chill here. The pond never breaks up so soon as the others in this neighborhood on account of both of its greater depth and it having no stream passing through it to melt or wear away the ice. I never knew it to open in the course of a winter, not excepting that of 52, 53, of course 1852 and 1853, which gave the pond so severe a trial. It commonly opens about the 1st of April, a week or 10 days later than Flint's Pond, in Fairhaven, beginning to melt on the north side and in the shallower parts where it began to freeze. It indicates better that any water hereabouts, the absolute progress of the season being least affected by the transient changes of temperature. A severe cold of a few days' duration in March may very much retard the opening of former ponds, while the temperature of Walden increases almost uninterruptedly. And again, we're looking for valuable and curious words. One of my students pointed out that the word retard is kind of interesting used here, and we know retard just means to slow the progress of. Nowadays, it's a word that we avoid for political correctness, and probably should, but that's not how Henry is using it here. A thermometer thrust into the middle of Walden on the 6th of March, 1847, stood at 32 degrees, or freezing point. Near the shore at 33, in the middle of Flint's Pond the same day at 32 and a half. At a dozen rods from the shore in shallow water under ice a foot thick at 36 degrees. This difference of 3.5 degrees between the temperature of the deep water and the shallow in the latter pond, and the fact that a great proportion of it comparatively shallow show why it should break up so much sooner than Walden. The ice in the shallowest part was at this time several inches thinner than in the middle. In midwinter, the middle had been the warmest and the ice the thinnest there. So, also, everyone who has waded about the shores of a pond in summer must have perceived how much warmer the water is close to the shore, where only 3 or 4 inches deep than a little distance out, and on the surface where it is deep than near the bottom. In spring, the sun not only exerts an influence through the increased temperature of the air and the earth, but its heat passes through ice a foot or more thick, and is reflected from the bottom in shallow water, and so also warms the water and melts the underside of the ice. At the same time that it is melting, it is more directly above, making it uneven and causing the air bubbles which it contains to extend themselves upward and downward until it is completely honeycombed, and at last disappears suddenly in a single spring rain. I had seen that phrase before in a work of fiction by Dorthy Parker about the Spanish Civil War. She referred to the ice as being honeycombed, and I always wondered what that meant. But the way that Thoreau's using it here is he's telling us that the ice is starting to melt. He actually uses the word rot. I don't know to what extent ice can rot. But it was a scene where a woman was getting a drink and her ice had honeycombed the ice they gave her in her class. And I think it was supposed to signify that they were going without some of the things that we normally take for granted. Power, electricity, a means to keep the ice cold, maybe fresh ice, maybe this ice was old. But I think that's a commonly used word, honeycombed, to describe ice that's sort of no longer fresh. Ice has its grain as well as wood. And when a cake begins to rot, or comb that is, assume the appearance of honeycomb, whatever may be its position, the air cells are at right angles with what was the water surface. Where there is a rock or a log rising near to the surface, the ice over it is much thinner and is frequently quite dissolved by this reflected heat. And I have been told that in the experiment at Cambridge to freeze water in a shallow wooden pond, though the cold air circulated underneath and so had access to both sides, the reflection of the sun from the bottom more than counterbalanced this advantage. When a warm rain in the middle of the winter melts off the snow ice from Walden and leaves a hard, dark, or transparent ice in the middle, there will be a strip of rotten, though thicker, white ice, a rod or more wide, about the shores created by this reflected heat. Also, as I have said, the bubbles themselves within the ice operate as burning glasses to melt the ice beneath. I thought that was kind of interesting. I guess I never thought about how that might work in a lake. The phenomenon of the year take place every day in a pond on a smaller scale. Every morning, generally speaking, the shallow water is being warmed more rapidly than the deep, though it may not be made so warm after all, and every evening it is being cooled more rapidly until the morning. The day is an epitome of the year. The night is the winter, the morning and evening are the spring and fall, and the noon is the summer. And of course, this is Henry getting philosophical. An epitome is a great, valuable, curious word. Right now I'm filming this a little past noon. This would be the summer part of a spring day. Even though this particular day, though warm, is not entirely summer-like. I think it's about 55. The cracking and booming of the ice indicate a change of temperature. One pleasant morning after a cold night, February 24th, 1850, having gone to Flint's Pond to spend the day, I noticed with surprise that when I struck the ice with the head of my axe, it resounded like a gong for many rods around, or as if I had struck on a tight drum head. The pond began to boom about an hour after sunrise, when it felt the influence of the sun's rays slanted upon it from over the hills. It stretched itself and yawned like a waking man with a gradually increasing tumult, which was kept up 3 or 4 hours. It took a short siesta at noon and boomed once more towards night, as the sun was withdrawing his influence. In the right stage of the weather, a pond fires its evening gun with great regularity. But in the middle of the day, being full of cracks, and the air also being less elastic, it has completely lost its resonance, and probably fishes and muskrats could not then have been stunned by a blow on it. The fishermen say that the thundering of the pond scares the fishes and prevents their biting. The thundering of the pond meaning the breaking of the ice, right? The pond does not thunder every evening, and I cannot tell surely when to expect its thundering, but though I may perceive no difference in the weather, it does. Who would have suspected so large and cold and thick-skinned a thing to be so sensitive? Yet it has its law to which it thunders obedience when it should, as surely as the buds expand in the spring. The earth is all alive and covered with papillae. Good, valuable, and curious word, by the way. The largest pond is as sensitive to atmospheric changes as the globule of mercury in its tube. I think that's a good spot for me to pause here for today. I'd like to do a couple of these videos with you guys. I don't want to make them too long. I know it can be daunting to pull up a video and it's like 20 minutes. Your teacher's rambling on about his cat. So I'm going to call it. Here in a minute, though, I do want to show you some buds. It's one of my favorite things about looking at spring, walking around, looking at the plants, looking at the new growth. So I'll close with that. Thanks for watching. There we have some nice buds. That's a lavender plant. You can kind of already see the purple. So this is a peony, it's going to have real big pink flowers on it. But right now you can see the buds are in place. We still got some time before this bad boy blooms, but showing signs. So there's a nice patch of weeds. Sometimes we take for granted, or I'll probably rip this all out here before it has a chance to grow too big, but it's nice to see some green growth after the winter.